All right, welcome to episode 28 of the Wild Farm Family Fun Show. Everything on this show is farm, family, food, and most importantly, fun. If you've had a chance to check us out either on our YouTube channel or podcast, you know we like to have a lot of fun in the kitchen. Chef Nick is a little crazy sometimes, but most importantly, we always bring on some amazing guests from all walks of life, not only to share their story, but to share the value of what they're up to in the world and how they're making an impact. And tonight is no different. I'm actually truly grateful I get to introduce somebody that I grew up with in my hometown who's doing some amazing things in the kickboxing fitness space, also has a elite career in kickboxing as well. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. But Nick, how are you?
I am doing great. Happy, thankful Thursday, everyone. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight with you, Troy, and Justin. And I just love, first and foremost, that, I know we talk about family and when we think of family, we also, I at least think about like immediate family, blood relatives. But this is great tonight because this is in the family, right? This is someone you grew up with. And I'm really excited that we can expand the concept of what family is. So that's really exciting tonight. And but speaking of family fun, you were just out jumping on a trampoline with the sprinkler. So walk me through this setup. Walk us through this setup. How did this come about? And what do we call it? What do you call it?
So first of all, it's not like trampolines are dangerous or anything. So why not throw some water on there and make it even worse? But it's like a sweltering 85 degrees and humid here in Michigan today. So I just got our 2-year-old up there on the trampoline, and we have a little overhang sprinkler thing that we hook up, and it just sprays. And so usually we run around with the kids and jump around on there, and it was time for some water today, but it's never a dull moment at this house, man. I'm telling you. So
well, yes, like puddle. I saw some puddle fun, and you had a yes day recently with the birthday in the family. My gosh, like that's amazing. What was the yes day all like? How was that?
Yeah, so anybody that ends up watching or listening to this and it hasn't seen the Yes Day movie yet, I believe with Jennifer Garner in it. It's about how parents often say no too much because we're always disciplining or trying to direct or guide. So Yes Day is just basically a free-for-all where you give your kids anything that they can ask for. You give them a yes within a little bit of context. Like if they ask you to drive them to Disney or fly them to Disney in the middle of the day, then obviously that's up for debate. But most asks, you have to say yes. And so we gave Trevin on his 6-year-old birthday a Yes Day, and anything he asked for. So that means that he had 4 marshmallows for breakfast. And we went through 1,500 water balloons by 9:30 a.m. 1,500 water balloons, man. So I mean, it's all it's all in good fun. And,
that's amazing.
With all the kids. So
that's unbelievable. Well, happy birthday to Trevin, and just before we bring Justin on, because I don't want to hold him up too much longer, but what was the biggest ask to say yes to? Like, what was your biggest challenge to say yes to on the Yes Day?
Actually, none. He was pretty modest. I mean, we went to a couple of splash pad parks. He asked us to take him into Target and let him shop and buy whatever he wanted. So he did that. And then he wanted me to sleep in the tent in the backyard with him. So we did that too.
Awesome. Wow. I love it. Absolutely love it.
He's pretty modest. I told him, like, come on, buddy. Like, any favors, any requests?
Give me something I can swing at. Come on.
I'm ready for the crazy. Give me crazy.
It sounds like maybe you wanted the Yes Day more than he did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, without further ado, let's bring up our guest for tonight.
Yes.
Justin Houghton. And so he is a friend of mine way back from where we grew up in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. I believe he now lives out in Colorado, but he is a elite glory kickboxing fighter, ranked in the top 10 Also was a champion in a lot of different boxing or fitness type, including like cage fighting, welterweight and featherweight boxing championships. And I'm sure he can dig into those too. But now he is returning the favor and helping others achieve their dreams in kickboxing space. He trains UFC fighters, glory kickboxing fighters, and people in the community just looking to with some fitness goals. So he's doing some amazing things. Justin, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So to kick it off, before we dig into your story, we always do a little fun segment with Nick. So I'm going to have Nick walk you through that.
Yeah. Hey, hi, Justin, and thank you so much for joining Troy and myself this evening. So to kick things off with us in our community here, where are you calling from, and what is a fun fact about yourself?
I am calling from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. So it's 96 degrees here, cooking. Yeah, and a fun fact is I attended the same high school as Troy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great fun fact. Thank you, Justin.
Hey, I'll add on to that. Besides like kickboxing and fitness and fighting and all that, Justin was an awesome basketball player back in the day. I remember nobody could take the ball from him. He had some mad dribbling skills. And so it was almost like when you play at the playground with that kid that you can't touch. And so we would dribble circles around us when we were kids. So that's kind of a fun fact to share.
Far too kind.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So walk us through this, Justin. So now, I gave a little bit of intro to where you're at in coaching and then the fighting and everything. We're going to get into a little bit of each of those. But where did it start from you? Where did it start from, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I did play a little bit of basketball. So my grandpa, my best friend, he's passed now, he played at Indiana State University basketball, and favorite person ever.
With Larry Bird, right?
No, but he did coach Magic and Sam and Jay Vincent. He has a deep history as well.
Whoa.
But he was my grandfather on my mother's side, and then my grandfather on my father's side was a pretty tough, mean guy. And so he was into the combat sports, which wasn't then. He was a fighter. I don't think he was getting paid for it. So he was into that. So then he raised my dad pretty tough. And so my dad wrestled through high school. And then he had me on the wrestling mats when I was 4 years old. So I started wrestling when I was 4 years old. And that was the beginning of my combat sports journey.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And so did it always have like the concept of wanting to be a boxer or a fighter for you when you were a kid? Or like walk us through how you got to this point? Like how did you become a professional athlete in kickboxing?
Well, there's not a whole lot to do. I think you could agree where we come from. So we were ultra competitive. I had an older brother that was just like a year and a half older than me, and we would compete in everything. So I would say more than a martial artist or athlete that I'm a competitor. I just love competition. I always have. So yeah, we started wrestling at 4 years old, and back then I used to watch like the WWE, Hulk Hogan. I thought I was Hulk Houghton. That's my last name. I used to chase my brother around. We used to wrestle, and there wasn't really much. We never rented pay-per-views or did anything like that. So I didn't really watch a lot of the fighting sports. And then it's probably about the beginning of high school is when mixed martial arts, the UFC was around, but it wasn't popular. Like there was a pay-per-view maybe like every 6 months or something like that. The sport hadn't really grown. But I would always wait and then, find a DVD, or I don't know if they were tapes back then, and watch those and try to simulate stuff like that. And then we were always competing against other towns and wrestling and basketball, so on and so forth. And my dad raised me with a pretty tough rule set. And so I was always getting into fights. My dad always told me stand my ground and don't let anybody disrespect me, and never back down no matter what, and taught me about my family name and all this stuff, which looking back was good and bad, right? So then after high school, I started boxing, and there was a local gym a town over, and I think I was there for 2 weeks, and they're like, man, we're gonna get this kid in the ring, and went and had a fight and had a blast. So then I did that a couple of years. I ended up winning the Golden Gloves, which is the amateur boxing competition. And then I took a job where I traveled, and the sport of MMA just started growing. And so every day I wasn't working, I'd work for 8 days on and 8 days off. I used to work for the Union Pacific Railroad. That's why I have this gaudy bar mirror that says Union Pacific behind me. So I can't let that go. So I was with those guys for a long time, and they paid me well, and I was able to change my quality of life. But I'd work 8 days on, and I had 8 days off. So I would go and travel wherever I was and just put work in the gym. And then I was fighting, you know, if there was something coming up, I would drive there and enter it, whether it would be like a local show or Tough Man, or we used to do arm wrestling competitions. I just always competed in anything. So, and I had a lot of success. So I decided, it's probably 15 years ago now, that when you could go professional and you can make money, that there's absolutely nothing I would rather do. And I thought I could make it. So I moved to Denver, Colorado, where they had the best training, in my opinion, at the time in the world. In Michigan, where I came from, I was running something in my local wrestling room. We had tons of talent, tons of tough kids, but just not a lot of knowledge. We'd always fight, and we'd always win the local on the local shows. I had so many champions back in Little Eaton Rapids that I'm very proud of. And but jiu-jitsu is like submissions, where you can kind of tap somebody out, or, you know, get them in a joint lock or choke them and finish a fight that way. Hoist Gracie used to do that in the UFC. And back when I was in Michigan, this is 15 years ago, but there was one black belt in the entire state. I don't know if it was in Grand Rapids or Detroit. I never trained with them. We were just doing things off of like books and different things like that, trying to learn things in trial and error. And when I moved to Denver, Colorado, I'd cross-trained because I was working, and that was one of the places that I visited. And there was like 10 black belts on the mat my first day in there, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is where I need to be. And I knew I was plenty tough enough, but they had a lot better technique, and I was getting choked and armbarred and things I'd never seen. I was like, I'm moving here, and I'm not gonna let that happen. So that's in a nutshell the story.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So walk me through this part, because I told you this when we talked earlier today, that I always thought that you had tremendous drive and toughness. And so, but you're saying like there's so much technique there involved behind the scenes of what you have to learn if you truly want to compete at that level. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, even just in boxing, where you're only using 2 weapons. So I'm not super proud of it, but I had been in almost triple digit fights before I had ever even put my gloves on. I was just always getting in fights. And then my very first fight, I was only in the boxing gym two weeks, and they're like, hey, I think they saw something. So like, hey, we're going to put this kid. And I went out there, it was in Flint. And I mean, I beat this kid very, very bad for 2 rounds. I mean, and he had like only 3 fights, and I lost the fight. I threw everything I had at him, which people usually didn't stand in front of me when I did that. And I hadn't ran or did road work. I was just tough. I just knew for sure I was going to win no matter what. Like, oh, I'm tough. And I couldn't keep my arms up in the 3rd round. All I had to do was just hold here, let him, not get knocked out to win. I was up on points, and I ended up turning away. And then they gave me an 8 count, and went back out there, and I ended up like turning my back to the referee, and they waved it off. And that was the humble pie that I needed. I'm like, I hate this feeling. I'm never going to not train and not prepare. And it was a kid that, if you did like an NFL combine, I would double his numbers in speed, strength, athleticism, but he had a good guard, and he was able to weather the storm, and he understood how to avoid punches a little bit and defend a little better than I did. And so that's when I was like, yeah. So that's just with the boxing, and nowadays with these ninjas that I'm training, I learned how to throw like 3 punches in like my first 4 months. And these kids now can use their punches, kicks, knees, and elbows from right-handed stance, which is called orthodox, and southpaw, and they can switch mid stance. I mean, it's very impressive. So yeah, technique over ability is very true.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And I know I've seen like on your site with coaching and everything. And so Justin owns a company called Pound for Pound Fitness. And I've seen, it's Muay Thai, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Muay Thai. Yep.
Muay Thai.
Yep, Muay Thai.
So what is that exactly?
They call it the art of 8 limbs. So in Glory Kickboxing, which you guys had mentioned earlier, you can knee, and clinching is when you grab a hold of somebody, and you can elbow or throw knees and such. And the glory kickboxing stuff is you cannot elbow. They want you to basically stand in front of each other and try to get the knockout. It's the most exciting sport in the world. Where in Muay Thai, if you can clinch a little more, and you have 2 other weapons, which are your elbows. And the elbows is you get cut up very easily, and a lot of guys will just hold on to you and look for those kind of things, and it can kind of stall out and be boring, as opposed to the glory rule set, which I really enjoy, where you can't hold on to somebody for 2 seconds and try to take a break. But you're like, break, you're going back at it. So Muay Thai is the art of 8 limbs. It's using punches, kicks, knees, and elbows. So your shins, your knees, your elbows, and your fists.
Okay. Interesting. And so is that something you get certified in too? Is that something you guys are certified to train and teach?
Well, I think that a lot is said with your career and what you've done. I've gotten to the privilege of training quite a few people because I had some pretty good accolades. But there's a guy named Dwayne Ludwig, who was my coach for a while, who invented a system. It's very state of the art, and he's the first guy that is getting a black belt in Muay Thai. I'm assuming in 3 years there'll be a black belt in boxing, which there's not. It's just kind of putting structure behind techniques and stuff. So there's no real certification. And some of the best coaches on the planet have never laced up. Well, I shouldn't say never laced up a glove, but never stepped in the ring. You know, they're intelligent and they're able to learn not just with instilling confidence, but trial and error and watching film. And I'm very impressed with a lot of people that have never even competed that are building world champs. So you don't necessarily have to be a great fighter to be a great coach. And there's no like certification where it's like, oh, he went to Harvard. So.
Oh, that's great. That's cool. And so what happened? Give us a little bit insight, like what happens behind the scenes, because there has to be a tremendous workout regimen, diet, everything behind the scenes, besides having good technique and drive and mission or whatever out there. Walk us through a day in the life of Justin when you were fighting as a elite athlete in the Glory Kickboxing division. Like what was your life like?
I was fortunate that so when I started the gym 8 years ago, I was doing MMA, which is the cage fighting, everything. And that's what I really enjoyed the most. It's the ultimate combat. And once I decided to open the gym, I realized I wasn't going to have the time that it took to compete at the highest level where I wanted to compete and still be able to wrestle and do the jiu-jitsu and stuff. And I really liked the striking portion more. So I chose to do that. So I haven't had like a coach. I've been fortunate to have my own facility to where I have all the equipment I need at my facility, and I would bring different guys into work, so on and so forth. But as far as my training schedule goes, I'd wake up in the morning and run or skip rope. And then I would put some bag work in, and I did a lot of my training on Airdynes. I did a lot of Airdynes, which is like a fan bike. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, and burpees and Airdynes was kind of like it, which is like nobody wants to do that, but I didn't have a coach or trainer that was putting me through things, so I just kind of did like the dog work that nobody wanted to. And then I had sparring at the gym, and I trained at a couple of other gyms. I cross-trained at a gym that I actually coach with right now called Elevation Fight Team, and they had some of the toughest guys and still do on the planet. So I was able to do that. But so I'd usually get 2 or 3 workouts in a day, and I followed the paleo diet pretty decent. And then my very last training camp before the pandemic, I feel like I was in the best shape I'd ever been in, which says something as you get older. And I was eating pesque, so just fish. So and it's there's a lot of different technology that's available now to these kids with the hand-eye and even the dietitians to be able to. The research that's out here now, I didn't really have the luxury to really be able to afford that to have. So I kind of just did it the old fashioned way.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, man. And we were fortunate to have his name's Dr. Stephen Cabral on the show, and he talked a lot about like toxins and everything that none of us ever think about on a daily basis, right? Like the products we use, our environment, our house, and like it's like when you first discover it, it's like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing like the last decade of my life? And so I totally get that. Like when you know more, you do better. And so.
Absolutely. It's very interesting. Just like any other sports, everyone has their own theories and whatnot. I have a coach from France that he only eats meat, carnivore diet. That's it. It's unbelievable. And he is healthy, strong, injury free. And I also have people that are superior and elite that are vegan. So I don't think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what show it was, but we were talking about heat, like heat in food. Like everybody's body reacts differently to the temperature of food. So if you like to juice and you put a lot of like good veggies and greens and protein or whatever into a juicing and it's cold, but your body doesn't react good to that, then it doesn't break it down effectively. So what they suggest is you put cayenne pepper in it, and it counteracts the heat for your body. And when I hear that, I'm just like, that is crazy. Like maybe that's why you feel sometimes that you're eating truly an awesome diet, but it hits your gut or something for some reason. And it could be the heat. It could be the temperature of the food.
That's just amazing.
So,
yeah.
So Justin, I have a question for you. Thank you so much for opening up and just sharing everything that you're doing. There's a lot of questions I want to ask, but I think the one that I'm really curious to know is, like, you mentioned, like, you kind of talked a little bit about your first boxing match, but like, what can you just like walk us through, like what like changed in your mind? Like, why did that call you in that moment? Like, what was it about? Like, what were you saying to yourself? Like, I'm just really curious, like what really took you from just sort of, maybe boxing in the streets to like fights to like, actually, I can see myself doing this.
Well, where we came from, there wasn't a boxing gym. There wasn't a martial arts gym. So basically, once I got my driver's license, my first car, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go check this place out. I just always loved. I was a thrill seeker. That's one of the things that that's one of the things that I miss. That's one of the things that I think that will make you think about retirement. Like my last probably eight bouts, I've been in the back, just excited. I'm always excited about it, but I have zero nerves, zero fear. I'm just like, I've done this 100 times. Like, but I remember the first time, I remember getting those nerves because my family was going to be there and stuff. And that was probably the only thing that was different. But yeah, I think I was a thrill seeker early and adrenaline junkie, and still true to this day. So I think that it was going to be that or something else. So there was no real rhyme or reason. That's like, oh yeah, I knew for sure.
Do you still get out there and fight?
I haven't fought since the pandemic. I think I'll probably do one more. I have been finished, like where they counted a KO one time in my entire career, and I have 100+ fights, and I got hit in the liver, and it was on World Star. It was pretty embarrassing. You get hit in the liver, your whole body shuts down. My opponent was like, he was 107-3 as an amateur and 24-0 as a pro. So one of the best in the world. And whoever won that was going to fight for the title. And not only did I lose, I lost in like 30 seconds. And it's never happened to me. And it wasn't because of the shape I was in or the lack of training or my age or none of those factors. It was just a perfectly timed shot and I couldn't recover. And so I just don't want to go out like that. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to, because tomorrow's not promised, but I definitely don't want to go out like that. So I'm definitely going to do at least one more. And I get in there and I definitely spar with the boys and spar with my students and hold them accountable.
Awesome, man. Well, I'd love to see you back out there and getting that last shot. And so is that, just really quick, like you mentioned liver, is that something that you teach people to kind of protect? Like, is that the kill shot that puts most people down?
Absolutely. So there's two kill shots. One is the chin and one is the liver. Those are debilitating. Those are hard to recover from, and those are the two shots that end the most fights. Is the liver shot, and I mean KOs can happen from anywhere for impact, but anytime that your head twists abruptly like that, you have a good chance of knocking somebody out. So a lot of times people aim for the chin. They call it the button. So those are two things that we train on, trying to set up different variations to try to touch those spots as often as we can when I'm training my students.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sweet. Okay. Oh, cool. Well, is there? I've chatted in on our link here, your website, so people can check out what you're all about and what you're doing. And I know you do community course programs on there too, not just training fighters, but also fitness programs for people in the community. Is pound for pound kickboxing offered across the United States, or is it predominantly in Colorado?
No, we don't have like an online basis or curriculum yet. We're primarily in Denver. A lot of our coaches do some virtual training, especially since the pandemic. A lot of people have equipment at their house and stuff like that. But it's the same thing. I checked out your guys' program, and like I said, I'm honored to be here. And I talk a lot about like not having. It wasn't like I was poor, dirt floor poor, but like the resources. And so that's why I'm so proud of you guys and to be a part of this, because people are, when you only have a McDonald's and a Taco Bell in town and it's a quick cheap fix, and my parents might not be around, people don't have these resources, so this is going to be awesome. I know it's going to explode, and I'm proud to be a part of this.
Well, I'm proud to have you, man.
Yeah, very
proud of you. You're doing some awesome stuff too. And I want to share this quick story, and then we'll kick it over to Nick, and then I'll also share your ways people can connect with you on social. About a year and a half ago, I had reached out to Justin. I was speaking in a school and was talking to 10th graders about what would they like to do with their lives. And a student stood up and said that he would love to train UFC and learn what that looked like. And so I reached out to Justin, and he was all about it, all about connecting with this 10th student in Michigan, across the country. And so it just speaks volume to the type of person that you are, Justin. So I just wanted to mention that.
Appreciate that so much. I love working with the kids.
Yeah, man. Well, I chatted on your website, but how else can people connect with you? Are you on social, and how can they find Justin?
Yeah, I have a social media. I think the page is P4P Muay Thai on Instagram, and also I think you can probably just type in Justin Houghton. I'm on all platforms. I don't know all my handles. I'm not really big on that. I should be in today's day and age, but I slip.
Me too.
Hey, no problem. We'll do that for you. So we'll chat those in here, and we'll chat it on the podcast too, so they can find you.
Appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
I have one final question for him before, and this would be maybe a little bit, I like to go deep, Justin, so just FYI, but I'm just curious, I'm so curious just because you mentioned the word competition a few different times. Like, how is competition different from when you were younger to what it is for you now?
I would say it is different in the way that my heart has grown 10 times the size as it ever was. So I'm willing to look the other way and let somebody win once in a while, but not in the ring.
So you're talking about like the right environment upon which that competition is how you apply that competition.
I think it's true. I think it's partly, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff, but I know that if Troy and I got the boys out in the basketball court or playing badminton, we're going to be as competitive just like it was yesterday. So that never leaves you. It don't leave you.
Yes, 100%.
That's true.
Beautiful answer. Thanks, Justin. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, we always invite our guests to stick around to watch Nick whip something up in the kitchen.
Oh, there's an announcement. By the way, there's an announcement for a fighter of his tonight.
Yes. Please do that. Please share that.
I'm multitasking. I don't have a dog in the fight, if you will, but a girl from Flint, Michigan, named Clarissa Shields. She's the greatest female boxer of all time. she is competing in MMA for the first time, and she's fighting for a girl that's a local that I've trained with for a number of years. She's not a student. I don't know if she even lives here anymore. So I'm super excited to watch that. It's pretty cool. It's like a tournament for them, and the winner of the tournament gets $1 million, which is a good amount of money for somebody putting their body on the line. I think these guys deserve it. So I'm going to be multitasking. Hopefully I can watch this on, I think it's on ESPN Plus. So I'll be doing both.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks again for joining us tonight, Justin. And you can stick around and watch Nick in the kitchen. And it's always good to see you, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin.
Nick, what do you have for us in the kitchen today?
Yes. Well, I've got okay. Well, thanks again, Justin, for being a guest here. It's such a great pleasure to get to know you, and it sounds like you're up to some really amazing things in the world, and just such an interesting individual. So thank you. So tonight, in honor of Justin and Pound for Pound, what we're going to be whipping up is I'm calling this a kickin' sex coleslaw for some reason. Anyway, so we're gonna walk through the steps of what that's gonna look like. But I want to start because we're actually gonna do a meal. But we're going to reference a prior episode and guest where we had somebody by the name of Chris Major who came on and he talked about his salts, like habanero salt and jalapeno salt. And he sent this beautiful product to me and it didn't get here in time. And since I'm down here in Nashville, I wanted to do something like a hot, crispy Nashville chicken. And so I went ahead and finally got around because I'm back in Nashville, and holy moly, is it humid as all could be down here in the South. Not for my northern sensibilities. However, the one really great thing about being down here is, which I'll share a little bit later too, is that like their things are in season that don't come in season until August. So like they have this beautiful heirloom purple Cherokee tomatoes that are already growing down here, which is just awesome. So so there is some benefits to the humidity. However, okay, so back to the major hot chicken. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine the slaw. If you want to reference the chicken recipe from the Major Farms episode, you can do that. We have that YouTube channel, so you can reference how to do that there. So I'm not going to walk through that whole thing, but let me just tell you that this spiced sea salt that Chris does with the chicken is just fantastic. I mean, you can kind of see like that really nice crispy skin with those sea salts and peppers on there. So we really got dialed up the hot chicken there. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine that chicken with the slaw. So let's talk about the slaw. All right. So the base for this is going to be red cabbage. We're also going to do some carrots, which I'll show you what I do for that. We're going to chiffonade some green kale. We'll maybe throw in some cilantro. And then we'll mix up the dressing as we go along. And I love coleslaws in the summer because when we get like when I get a CSA or something, like I like these are things that you can it's like an everything but the kitchen sink type of salad. I like to keep it. You could use those beet greens. You could use all of that cabbage. You could use those carrots. Like there's just fun things that you can do to just sort of continue to use up everything in that CSA, or if you go to the farmer's market, just there's no rules to coleslaw, and that's the beautiful thing. And so we're going to make it taste good, but the idea here is that we can throw a lot of different things here with just some very simple techniques as far as the dressing and the taste is concerned. So to start, we're going to start with the cabbage. So I'm going to take, you can kind of see here that kind of woody stem of the cabbage. So I'm going to lob that bottom off. I have a little bowl that I like throw my waste into. And then what I'm going to do, since it's flat, that's why I do this. So I always want to cut on a surface that is flat, like with the food. So then I'm going to have it. I'm only going to use half of this. And so now you see there's this little core right here. So what I'm going to do is just core it. Actually, we can do it this way. Always keep it flat, right? That's what I said.
That's right.
Listen to my own advice.
What's the knife of choice today? What are you using there?
It is a kind of a veggie knife that's got the flat. It has the flat, kind of the flat head here, so it's more of a vegetable prepping knife.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to use my there. Might get one with a point just to get that stem out.
I saw something, Nick, on knives the other day. I thought you'd appreciate this, which is a knife like that. Like in the Chinese culture, they use every single part of the knife for something different. Like they use the handle to chop up spices or something, and they use the tip to do fine cut. Like it was a really cool culture.
Oh, I love it. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Awesome. So then what I'm going to do here is just take off the outer layer of the cabbage. It's a little mealy, and you can kind of see it's a little, I don't know, that's like whole, like it's sort of dry on the outside. So I'm just trying to get down to the goods here in that outer layer of the cabbage. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it one more time. And then from here, I'm going to try to do really thin slices. And again, I'm trying to keep it flat the entire time. I like having sharp knives, I'll say that much right now. All right, so I'm going to take all that nice red cabbage. I'm going to have a spare big kitchen bowl, and I'm going to throw that into the bowl here. So we've got enough cabbage there. So as you can kind of see, it's sort of shredded. You can also use like a food mixing processor, but I always think that those things are, I don't know, they're really a pain in the butt to clean up. I might as well just do it with my knife, keep things simple. So I've got nice shredded cabbage here that I'm going to put into that bowl. Now we're going to move on to the carrots. So for the carrots, so I've already peeled the outside. All I'm going to do here is use my peeler, and I'm just going to just make strips. And you can kind of see it shreds it up really nice. Again, like I said, you could use the food processor to do something like this, but I don't know. Not everybody has one. It's not necessary, and it's kind of fun to use the peeler in a way that you don't get to usually do that, and you get to eat a little bit at the end. So you kind of get
the colors too. I like that you're rocking the different colors.
Yes, the rainbow carrots. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll do that to a few carrots here.
Well, there's a history to that, Nick. Actually, all carrots used to be purple, yellow, red, and black. And when farmers found out that orange carrots were what people bought more, that's when they started growing and doing more orange carrots. But
interesting. Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Why do you think people wanted the orange carrot?
I don't know. If I was going to guess, I would say that colors closest to red usually trigger temptation and eating. That's why a lot of companies use red to try to invoke people to hunger and things like that. So I would imagine that's something to do that.
That makes sense. Yes, I know that red satiates our hunger for whatever reason. So that makes sense. All right. So I've got the cabbage down. I'm going to put the carrots in. I'm just going to give them, it's a good toss here with the hand. I'm making a mess and I love it. All right. So we're also going to add we're going to chiffonade. So chiffonade is a fancy French term for like how you cut, like you can chiffonade basil, you can chiffonade kale like we're going to do. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to bunch it up. You're going to take your knife. You're going to just do really, again, thin strips. You might need to bunch it back up towards the end here. So you might see like chiffonade basil on like a nice, caprese salad or on a margarita pizza. So that's a lot of times when you see that chiffonade basil, it's really thin strips. As you can see, it's pretty thin here. So it's kind of that dangly, pretty looking presentation. So I'm also going to add that into the coleslaw mix. Okay, mix it up here. Okay, we're almost there. I might as well, I got some fresh cilantro, so I'm just gonna add a small bunch of that because why not? Again, like this is, like I was sharing, like this is such a great, the coleslaw is such a great salad that you could use with all of these different ingredients that come home with you from the farmer's market or in a CSA box. Like it's just, like I said, it's like everything but the kitchen sink type of salad. And it's just so great in the summer because it's fresh and cooling, and we're gonna add a little spice in there just in case you don't digest cool foods as well as you think you should. So we're going to add some spice to it. Don't worry, Troy, it's coming. All right, so now that I have this nice, beautiful, colorful looking bowl of cabbage, carrots, kale, and cilantro, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my dressing. So there's a couple different things that we just want to walk through. So you're going to want an oil, an acid, a little bit of sweet, some salt, and then my fifth S is spice because this is a kickin' coleslaw. And then we're going to add a little bit of texture with some local Nashville, Tennessee bee pollen.
Nice.
There you go. So for the fat tonight, we're going to use a homemade whisked mayo, which you can reference a video that we've done for how to make that mayo. For the acid, we're going to do some apple cider vinegar. We're going to use some local honey for the sweetener, just basic kosher salt. And then we're going to use a local hot sauce here, Hof.
That's awesome.
So let's do this. Okay, so I am going to just take some of this oil, this mayonnaise. I'm going to add maybe a third of a cup eyeball in here. Okay, and then I'm going to do my oil, my vinegar. So a couple dashes here. Little honey, just drizzling it in. We're going to do a little taste test here just to make sure that all of the flavors sort of combine nicely. We'll add the salt now. And then Troy's favorite part, which is the hot sauce. So I would say start light on the hot sauce. Another thing you could do, we do get like hot peppers come in the CSA, jalapenos and stuff. You could also like thinly slice those up and throw these in here. Red peppers, green peppers, just, it's fun. Colorful, tasty. So I'm just going to give this a good mix here. So again, the fat that I'm using is a homemade mayonnaise. You could use just a basic olive oil as well. There's no need to use mayo. We've got apple cider vinegar for our acid, a little kosher salt for the salt, local honey for our sweetener, and then a hot sauce for Troy's liking here. Okay, so I'm going to just do a quick little taste test. That cilantro in there really makes it sing. That's great. All right, so final thing I'm going to do, add some texture. So I'm going to add that bee pollen in.
I like it.
And we'll mix that in here. So now you can kind of see you got those little bee pollen things going on up in there. All right. So now what we'll do is we'll actually put this together. Let's do this. Need a serving bowl. And we're going to use one of our nice purple Cherokee tomatoes. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut the inside out.
Just like a pepper?
Not quite, Troy, but I'm just going to sort of cut the
like a pumpkin.
Yeah. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple slices here. I'll remove that top there. Look at how nice that looks, huh, Troy?
Yeah, that looks awesome.
So good. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just put a bed of tomato down on the bottom. We're going to do the coleslaw. And then you can heat this up. You don't have to heat this up. This could come off straight off the pan. This is cold, but this is going to be just as tasty because fried chicken cold is always amazing in my book. Fried chicken anyway, hot, cold, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to do a couple strips here. And then I would just put that chicken right on top.
Yeah.
And there we have it. We have the kickin' sex slaw with some fresh tomatoes and the Major Farms hot Tennessee chicken. So
amazing, dude. Looks
alien certified, Justin.
My mouth is watering. No.
You could also do fish. You know, I know you said you were
yeah.
So
yeah.
But awesome. There you go.
And I know Chris Major has the habanero honey too. So would you like take out the hot sauce and just put the habanero honey on there?
You know, that would be if I had that habanero honey, what I might do to finish this dish would be to add that habanero honey, drizzle it, and then maybe a touch of the salts on top just to kind of put it over the edge there.
Okay. That's awesome. Hopefully Tiff's watching this and this will be a dinner choice for us coming up here soon.
Yeah, super simple. The chicken is probably the most time consuming part just because it takes a little time to crisp that chicken up. but the coleslaw is really super simple and very summery fresh. So
awesome. Love the name too, man. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you, Nick, for the awesome dish as always. Thank you again, Justin, and for sticking around too. Hopefully, how did the fight go? Is it over? Is it still going?
There's one on that's before. There's like probably 2 or 3 hours worth. I think they're the main event, so it's a ways out. So
suspense is going to build for you all night.
Yeah, just like my hunger, I got to grab some food now.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Justin, again. Nick, as always, man, you're awesome. We'll make sure that we chat in the recipe. I did chat in Nick's website so you can find out about his work. Nick also does a lot of course programs. And so if there's anything that you want to do a deeper dive in around how to prep, how to cut different types of food or how to make dishes, he does awesome programs. And so make sure to check out his site. And then because we talked a lot about Chris Major and Major Family Farms here in and around Plymouth, Michigan, he grows his own organic peppers on his own farm and then also dehydrates all the peppers and then turns them into spices and infused honeys. And he creates all these awesome salts and senses to us. So I've chatted in his website too. You can also order his stuff that Nick's showing there. You can order it and he ships it anywhere. So it doesn't matter where you live, he'll ship it to you. But just giving him a little bit of a plug there.
And it is spicy.
It's super spicy. Yeah,
it is good spicy.
He doesn't hold back on the spice.
He does not.
Yeah. So
especially somebody from Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for that watched us live. I know there was a couple people on there live. Thank you to all our listeners and podcast listeners too. We hope that you check out the YouTube channel. We seem to get a lot of viewers on the podcast, but I know that if they saw some of the video and some things that Nick does in the kitchen and our awesome guests, they would love that too. But thank you guys for always checking in. And again, we talk about everything farm, food, family, and most importantly, fun. We have another exciting guest coming up next week that is actually a close friend of mine here in Michigan. And she just entered another bodybuilding competition at age 40. And she's going to talk about that journey and what that looks like. And so tune in for that. So thanks again. I hope everyone has an awesome night, and we will see you next week.
Thank you again, Justin. Good night, everybody.